Let us understand the construction and working of helium neon laser. Helium neon laser is the example of gas laser and it is characterized by very sharp energy levels. Here we are not using optical pumping, but gas discharge is used to pump the atoms. Let us first understand the construction part of it. Now here we have a glass discharge tube which is 50 centimeter in length and about 1 centimeter in its diameter. The diameter is purposefully made small. I'll explain the reason for this later. And the pressure inside this tube is maintained as 1 millimeter of mercury. This tube is provided with two electrodes, cathode and anode, and high potential difference is applied between the two. The tube is thermostatically enclosed from both of its ends using Brewster's window. One side of the tube is made 100% reflecting so that whatever photons fall on this surface get reflected and will be confined to this tube itself. The other end of the tube is partially reflecting. There is a small hole at the center through which the finer laser beam will come out. Now inside this tube there is a mixture of helium and neon atoms and it is in the proportion 10:1. That is, for 10 helium atoms there is 1 neon atom, and there is purpose for this mixture also, the fixed proportion, that also I will explain it later. So once the tube is switched on, that is, anode is connected to positive terminal and cathode is connected to negative terminal of high tension battery, and when the supply is switched on, the gas inside the tube gets ionized. That means electrons are liberated and ions will be formed. Now these electrons will move towards anode and positive ions will move towards cathode. Electrons will gain energy from the applied electric field and they will pass on the energy to helium atoms. Helium atoms, being light in weight, gets excited faster. Now let us understand the working of this using energy level diagram. So the energy level diagram of helium neon is like this. These are the energy levels for helium atoms. 3 energy level, F1, F2, F3, and for neon atoms there are actually 6 energy levels, though the type of pumping is 4 level pumping. Now in this helium atoms, when the excited electrons pass on their energy to helium atoms get excited. So from energy level, ground state energy level F1, they get excited to energy level F2 and energy level F3. For getting excited into energy level F1, it requires energy 19.81 electron volt, whereas for getting excited to energy level F3, it requires energy 20.61 electron volt. Both F2 and F3, they are metastable state. So many helium atoms get accumulated in these two energy levels F2 and F3. Since radioactive decay is not possible, these atoms will be trapped in these two energy levels. They are being metastable energy levels. Now these helium atoms can give up their energy to neon atoms. Since there are 10 helium atoms to each one single neon atom, so helium atoms can pass on energy to neon and vice versa is not possible, and that is the reason why this ratio is maintained 10:1. helium atoms are more in number, so they give up their energy when they collide with neon atoms. They transfer their energy to neon atoms. Now neon atoms which are initially in ground state, they get excited to energy level E4, whose value is 18.7, which is almost same as 19.81. So it is slightly below F2, and the other energy level E6 to which neon atom get excited is 20.66, which is slightly above 20.61. Since these two energy levels of helium and neon, they are almost close to each other, and that is why this combination of helium and neon is used in producing laser light. Now neon atoms, once they get excited to energy level E4 and E6, both are metastable state, and then population inversion takes place between three pair of energy level. One is between E6 and E5, second pair of energy level is E6 and E3, and third pair of energy level is E4 and E3. Now when one of the spontaneously emitted photon triggers the action, atoms from energy level E6 can come down to energy level E5. When this transition takes place, the wavelength 3.39 micrometer is generated. This is infrared light, so it is not visible to us. When atoms from energy level E6 jumps to energy level E3, it generates a laser light of wavelength 6328 angstrom unit, which is red color and which is visible to us. So we can see a red light coming out of helium neon laser. There is one more transition taking place between metastable state E4 and energy level E3, which generates a light of wavelength 1.15 micrometer. So actually speaking, this laser light generates three wavelengths. One is during the transition E6 to E5, which is 3.39 micrometer. Second wavelength, which is from E6 to E3, 6328 angstrom unit, which is red color light, and the last one is from E4 to E3. This is 1.15 micrometer. This is again in infrared region, so it is not visible. So out of three wavelengths generated, two are in infrared region, so we cannot see those wavelengths. Only light this 6328, which is red color, can be seen coming out of laser source from this surface, which is partially reflecting mirror. Now when these atoms from E5 and E3, from these two energy levels, atoms will come down to energy level E2. One is this transition, second is this transition. So atoms will come down to energy level E2 by spontaneous emission, and this E2 again is a metastable state. So again atoms will get accumulated in this metastable state E2, but it is not a ground state energy level. It has certain energy, little energy above ground state energy level. In order to remove that energy, the diameter of the tube, as I explained it before, the diameter of the tube is made very small, which is of the order of 1 centimeter. Since the diameter of this tube is small, the atoms in energy level E2 release their energy when they collide with the container, like walls of the tube, and this they get de-excited by collision with the walls, and this is how the complete cycle takes place. There are two metastable states, E4 and E6, and there are three types of population inversion. One is between E6 and E5, second is between E6 and E3, and third is between E4 and E3, and three wavelengths are given out, and finally atoms from energy level E2 come to ground state by collision, by releasing their energy in the form of collision with the container. Thus, there is the type of pumping used here is by discharge tube, and here we have seen there are three types of wavelengths given out. There are three types of population inversion takes place, but every time, since four energy levels are involved, it is called four level pumping. For example, if we look at this transition E6 to E3, the energy level involved are, first is E1 to E6, then E6 to E3, E3 to E2, and E2 to E1. So E1, E2, E3 and E6, these are the energy levels involved in this light generation, red light generation. Like that, there are four energy level involved here also, and four energy levels involved here also. So this is how this laser light emits continuous light. So there is no drawback of light given out in the form of pulses. You will get continuous light. The only thing is that it requires high tension battery, like it requires powerful power supply, and the laser source is comparatively heavy. You will find there is a little time lag between the moment you switch on the laser source and the moment light comes out. There is small gap because this action requires some time, because as soon as this ionization of gas takes place, it will first excite helium atoms then collide with neon atoms get excited, then population inversion takes place, then stimulated emission takes place, and three different wavelengths are given out. So all these process takes few seconds, and that's the reason there is time lag between the switching of the laser source and light emitted by the source.